So yeah, hi everyone. In our last video, we defined our project controller. So what we will do in this video, we will start writing our app.js file. We will connect with our routes and see how we will get our first get API. So let's remove all these things. Okay, remove. We can also comment it here. We will remove it. So firstly, what we are doing, we are importing this module, Express module, and create our Express app. Like we import Express memo and create Express app. Now what we have to do, we will import a middleware that is course, which is basically very useful in that scenario if you want to restrict if you want to let's say you want to restrict to call your API from some other domain, so you can do by using course. Okay, so we will use this library require and we will import it. So for that, what we have to do, we have to install this. So let's change my directory first into portfolio, and now I have to go on backend npm install course. Okay, so I installed this package, I can use this. Fine. The next thing what we have to do, you have one question, what are middleware? So you can imagine middleware is like, let's say you are on a restaurant and you order some kind of a food. Okay, so basically food is a like of a let's you are on any browser and you are making some kind of a request, http request, that is like you order some food on restaurant. Okay, and now on that particular restaurant chef are preparing your food, so that thing you can imagine as a the web part where your API code is written. Okay, and then while you order some food and when you get some food, there are some tasks we additional tasks we can perform. So those things you can think as a middleware, which are basically validate something. Fine. So I hope you understand what the middleware are. So we have Express framework, we have a course. Now we create our Express app. Okay, now we will use course, so we will use app use. What we have to use, we have to use course in our project, so we can proceed further. What we have to do, we have to also use one more middleware, that is app dot also use express.json. uh, let's say you are creating a new project and you want some request from user side, so you need to convert those requests in a proper JSON format so that you can read inside your controller as a request.body. So for that you have to use this request express.json. Fine. Once we have done this, now the next step what we can do is that we can change our port which we are listening from here directly 4000. What we can do, we can give port here, we can define a variable cost port which we will get from our environment file. So process env dot our port number, otherwise we will get it as a 4000, and we will use this variable inside our port. And once we connected, what we will do, we will simply log it on our console that we successfully connected to our database or server. You can say server is running on this port number where we will, okay, where server is running on this port. So let's get the variable that is port we have to use. Okay, fine. So next thing what we have to do, we have to create our routes. We have to call our routes. Okay, so what we will do, we will use app.use. What we have to use this time, we have to use our routes. So what we will do, we will give a base URL of our API. What we will do, this give as projects, and the next thing we will call our project routes here, which we defined earlier in the previous video. Project routes. So what we have to do, we have to import this project routes from our routes file. So let's add it. So what we have to do, project routes, and this is where we have to give the location of that particular file. So this is basically inside our routes folder, routes, and the file name was project routes. Okay, so we have this project routes, and inside our project routes, if you see the method we exported is it's taking a dependency. Okay, so we have to provide that also. In dependency, what we have to provide, we can provide the our project controller. Okay, so let's project controller, we can provide this. So we need to initialize this also. So for that, let's create a new variable called project controller. Okay, let's create a object of our project controller over here. So let's do that. Define a class called project controller. Okay, and this project controller, create a class, and this will take some parameter. So we have to also import this project controller first, and we can use this. Okay, so for that, at the top, let's import project controller file. Okay, let's project controller and give the path of our controller file. We have controllers config, requires, we have controllers, inside controllers we have project controller file. Fine, so let's use this over here. Project controller, create object of our project controller class. Now what we have to do, this project controller class expecting one use case, that is get all project use case. Okay, so let's do that. For that, what we have to do, we have to also import our use cases here. So what we can do, project, now first use case is was get all project use case. You can see inside domain layer, if you come here and get all project use case, simply copy the name of your use case and paste it here. And now we have to import this file where this is inside our domain layer. So let's call it our domain part, domain. Then you have use cases, and then we have get all project use case. Okay, so let's create an we can create an object of our get all project use case over here. Okay, let's create an object of our get all project use case. Okay, let's, and this, if you see, get all project use cases required project repository, so we need to import this also, project repository. So at the top, what we will do, we will copy. Okay, now we have our get project all use cases object. Okay, so this is required project repository in the constructor. So what we have to do, we have to also import project repository over here at the top of our file, so we can use our use case. So if you come over data layer inside project repository, copy the name of the file and simply create over here and give the path of our data there, data, and there is a repository and the file name project repository. Fine, let's create an object of our project repository, that is project repository, and name it as project repository. Okay, this use cases will take a project repository as a parameter, and our project controller will take a one use case, that it got all use cases. Okay, so let's see one more time what we are doing here. We are importing our express module, then we are importing our course module as a middleware, then we are importing our routes, project routes over here, so that we can use inside our project. Then we are importing our project controller, then we have our get all project use cases module, then our project repository, after we creating our express app here, and then we are creating an object of our repository, get all project use cases. Repository is not anything sign. Then we are using app.use, there we are passing calling a course method here, so that after that, what we are doing, we are using app.use express.js method over here, and then we are calling our project routes with project controller, and we are passing as a dependency, and the base URL we are saying that projects. Our API endpoint would be will something like this, projects, and the whatever the endpoint which we define, like we have get method defined in the project routes, right? So the endpoint would be project/get, and the base URL where we deployed our project. Okay. So let's now try to run our node mod. Okay, and make sure that your server is running over here, otherwise we will not able to see that. So let's create a run a command node mon dot start, and see we are getting an error, cannot find module mysql to slash promise. Okay, where we are getting over here. Okay, let's see we have inside our package.json or not. We have this mysql to promise, and see, let's see why we are getting this error. Okay, so basically what we did wrong, we imported a wrong dependency. So let's clear first, and let me install our package npm install mysql 2, and once we get this, we are good to go. Let's now try to run command node mon and start. Now we are getting some other error, is that invalid configuration option passed in connection database. This is currently a warning, but in future, okay, we are getting an error, is that an error will be thrown in project repository class constructor. Project repository can't be invoked without a new. Okay, so we have to use a new keyword over there. If you see here in our project repository where we are exporting our module, we have to use a new keyword. Okay, let's see, waiting for changes. Okay, let's start it more time. Project repository backend app.js line number 12, we are getting this error. So let's add a new keyword over here, and app is waiting for a file. So let's rerun. fine, we are getting an error that is project repository cannot be invoked without new keyword. So let's see what the wrong is. Okay, if you come here, we have to remove this parenthesis from here because we are using new keyword and we have to use new here. Okay, let's try to check now. Now it's saying that get all project users cannot be removed without this. So we have to add new keyword for each while we creating each object from project repository, our use cases and project controller. So now let's try to see we do not have any error. If we come on this page, then we are getting an error. Okay, we are getting an error. Get add info will not found. Okay, you can see there is vmesh l. So we have to add inside our environment file db host should be localhost. We spell it wrong. And if you try to refresh and let's come on database, also we will check this create connection part. We have a host, we have our user, we have our password. Okay, we spell it here wrong. We have to add a database name, then the port. Here we will add a database port. And let's try to rerun one more time and see what the thing we are getting. So it's saying that portfolio app is not identified. So what we have to do, we have to create a database on your local host with this name portfolio app or whatever the database you define there, name defined there. So we are defined database name portfolio app. So let's come on over here, and there we have already created a portfolio db database over our local host. So what we have to do, we have to just rename this portfolio app to database. Okay, once you renamed it, then we have one table over here that is projects, and I added some project over there. Fine. So let's try to refresh one more, save it and try to refresh one more time our local host and see we are getting an response or not. So as you can see, we are getting a proper response. We are getting all the JSON. We can test by using a postman. Let's come on postman, and we will paste our localhost endpoint and try to hit our API, and we will see we are getting a proper response. So in the next part, what we will do, we will write our another use cases that would be create a project, new project, and how we can update our existing project and how we can delete that existing project. Okay, so in the next video we will cover that. So that's it for this video. Okay, thanks.